Amy Stefanik here. I am the co-founder of JuJu Lee Events.
I'm Julia Tracy. I'm also the co-founder.
We are on episode 2 of our podcast, so very exciting, and we are going to share some really incredible stuff with you today. So
yeah, let's start with drinks. What are we drinking today?
So we have Jessica from the Standard Pour, and she shared a signature cocktail with us called Empowerment Punch, which fits this podcast perfectly. So thank you, Jessica. I'm super excited. This is, of course, the first time that we're tasting it. It is vodka, pineapple, grenadine, and Sprite. So, yummy. Yeah, that one's good. Actually, I like it.
You're a heavy pour right now. Oh my god, I just had straight vodka on the top of this.
Well, I'm not a bartender. Anyways, that's good. So that would be super cute with, like, Jessica, you can chime in when you see this and comment or whatever, but like with a pineapple slice on the side of it or something like that. So good.
Yeah, a little umbrella. If you have like a little tropical kind of glass. What are those, like, where the glass is a little bit longer and does look a little curviness?
I have
a little umbrella you get at the beach. That'd be cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. The people know what I mean.
So that was a good one. So we're going to sip on that throughout this episode, and we're going to go ahead and dive in. So I've read a lot of books, and when I say read, I mean like listen to. I listen to Audible. It's one of my favorite things to do. I drive a lot because we travel to weddings, and so it's a great way for me to kind of zone out and, you know, not make the trip so long. But I've been doing like book reading for years, and I've read a lot of books, but there's a few books that have been a game changer for me, and we want to share our 3 favorite books with you today. So if whatever journey you're on in your life, if you're wanting, you know, empowerment, if you're wanting, you know, to feel uplifted, if you're wanting to make a change in your life, or you're just wanting to, you know, have a good book to read, we have a couple that we're going to share with you today. So the newest book that I've been on that I'm absolutely obsessed with is called The Bible Study. I love this book. I'm just in it, but I'm obsessed with it. It's part of my morning routine, and so in the morning when I get up, I go through like one chapter of the book. So it breaks basically down some people that are in the Bible that don't get spoke about a lot in the Bible, but it tells their story and tells you how to reflect on it. But so I love this book. I just got it, and I'll share the link on how to purchase it yourself.
It talks about the woman in the Bible.
The women in the Bible, which
I feel like that needs to be said. It's about the woman in the Bible who gets skipped on over.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. I love it. Another one of my favorite books that have totally changed my life is called The Anatomy of a Calling. This one is really one of my most favorite books of all time. I've read it twice. It's just a doctor's journey. It says a doctor's journey from head to heart and a prescription finding your life purpose. It is really one of my most favorite books. And then my final favorite book, and another game changer in my life, is The 5 Love Languages. If you are anywhere in the world that has any kind of internet, everybody knows about The 5 Love Languages. But this one is truly something that I use not only in my marriage, but also with my team. When we hire someone, we have them do a couple of different, like, I shouldn't say tests, what are they called? Quizzes, just to figure out who they are and how they react to feedback, affection, and all the things. And it really helps guide us on how to train and really motivate our team. So those are my 3 favorite books. What are your three favorite books?
I just got back into reading, and so I've been taking recommendations from her. Obviously, 5 Love Languages is something that I have kept in mind for a very long time. You guys talked about it when I was in high school. I've talked about it throughout my marriage. It's good to know your partner's love language. It's good to know your friend's love language. All that good stuff. And then I also read Green Light by Michael
No.
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt McConaughey.
Yeah.
Can we? Okay, goodness gracious, I'm so sorry. Green Lights are also a good book. I'm still taking recommendations and adding to my list of books. I'm currently just reading a 5-series, 6-series, but it's not about spiritualness and like well-being.
It's just a fun book.
It's just a fun book to read. But I am adding to my group. I do not have a stack next to me currently. But I also can't see very well, so I listen to Audible as well. I don't have physical copies of anything. But I'm just constantly adding. I'm always like, what should I read? You've given me a list of stuff recently that I've bought, but I'm in the process of reading.
Yeah, so if you
Matthew
guys...
McConaughey. I'm so sorry for saying your name wrong.
He's
not
not.
that you're ever going to listen to this.
He's good. This could be his favorite podcast. You don't know. So,
I'm so sorry, Matthew.
But yeah, so we're going to dive into the 5 love languages and kind of talk about communication and how we communicate not only with our team and with each other, but also with our husbands. So I've been married for almost 20 years. Is that right? Have I been married for almost 20 years? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're celebrating our 20-year anniversary in next year, at the beginning of the year. So, wow. I've been married for a whole grown-up adult.
Yep.
Almost able to drink.
Majority of my life.
Yeah. Craziness. So, one of the big game changers in my relationship was someone told us about the 5 love languages. So we're going to dive into the 5 love languages, and we're going to talk about each one of the items that it kind of talks about of how you feel loved. So the 5 love languages is how you interact with someone that you care about or someone that is, around you, that you want them to feel like you love them. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that you hear spouses say, well, I do this and this, and she still doesn't, she still asks me if I even care. It's because they don't receive love the same way that you receive love. And a lot of times we give love the way that we receive love. So, for example, my love language is words of affirmation. And so I am very wordy. Like, I love telling people how much they mean to me, how wonderful they are, what a great job they're doing, all of those things, because that's how I receive love. So that's what I'm giving to other people. There are words of affirmation, like I just said, quality time, which is a good one. We're going to dive into these. Receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. What do you feel like, or what do you know that your love language is?
Acts of service.
So,
for my spouse specifically, I feel like for other people I may have different love languages for, but I think for the big part for my marriage is acts of service. If I come home and the house is clean, I'm like, wow, you love me. But if I come home and the house is dirty and you're trying to give me a hug and tell me I'm beautiful, I'm like, don't touch me.
yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
I mean, yeah. So but they, like my husband says, that they all boil down to one thing, and that's consideration. Are you considering the other person? Do you care about what they're feeling? And so, like, quality time, that used to be my love language. I think as we have evolved in our lives, like, these things may change because
I was definitely gifts when I was younger.
Oh, she would
buy me something.
I could tell her that she was the most wonderful thing ever and just, like, give her all the love, and she'd be like, thanks. But I'd wake her up with a Starbucks and she'd be like, oh my gosh, you're the best. I love you. You love me so much. Random. But
that's also how I like to show love for others, is I like to give them gifts.
So that's why I think, and you can be, like, lean towards one heavier and then have, like maybe receiving gifts is, like, your heavy one, but then acts of service is, like, your Julia 2.0.
But also I think that might be a woman thing as well. Because we tend to do so much. So when someone takes some of that burden off of your shoulders, it feels like,
you care about me.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. 100%. And so quality time could be just sitting together watching TV, just any time that you're taking time away from being on your phone or doing something that you're, normally doing, and being present with the person that you care about, that's quality time. Receiving gifts, of course, everybody knows what that is. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge, elaborate gesture. It could be as simple as like a Starbucks coffee or, you know, just a card, you know, whatever it is, but receiving something from you. Acts of service, of course, is doing something for someone else. We tie that a lot to like our spouses when it comes to taking out the garbage, cleaning the kitchen, like vacuuming or whatever. That's why you see these like stories of, you know, my husband's never been sexier, you know.
Yeah, there's like TikTok pages where it's like all about like women being like more attracted to their spouse when they actually meet their love language.
Yeah, for sure. And then physical touch is the hardest for me because I didn't grow up being like having someone that was super affectionate with me, like physically, and that's just not how I relate to people. And so when I met my husband, that's like his one thing, like physical touch. Like that's how he shows love, that's how he receives love, and that's just not who I am. So I have to make sure that I am, and it doesn't have to be sex. Like that's not like what physical touch is all the time. It is part of it, but it's not like 100%. Even just like scratching their back or putting your hand on them, whatever it is. And I have people that work with us and people that I know that's also physical touch, which is a little bit trickier when they're like an employee or something.
I don't know. I don't touch people.
She's not. The team, when she hugs
when
you.
I actually hug one of my team members, like goodbye or whatever, they're like, "Oh my God, Julia, you're hugging me," and I'm like, "Man."
It's a thing. It's a whole thing. So those are the 5 love languages. I highly suggest if you haven't read the book and you haven't done the quiz, you can do the quiz free online. Just Google the 5 love languages and take the quiz. Have your spouse or friends or sisters or whoever's close to you that you really want to connect with take the quiz so that you can relate to them in a way that they understand and they feel loved by you. I think it's super important. So this is absolutely a game changer for many relationships in my life, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so we, especially me, I am a communicator. I talk a lot about feelings and how I'm feeling and how things are going. And so we want to talk about communication and kind of different tools that we use when it comes to communicating with the people around us. Now, back to the 5 love languages, that's a great way to learn how to communicate with people in the way that they understand and they can receive. But I feel like my communication style and your communication style are completely different. So here, Joy's communication style is very blunt. I'll let you share like how you.
I'm just blunt. Like I don't like to beat around the bush. I don't like to drag anything out. I'm just like, stop. Like you're not doing it right. Like stop, bro. Like I don't like to beat around the bush. It's just I don't have time for that. I'm just like, you're not doing it right.
Or she'll be like, no, it's a full sentence. I said no.
Yeah, I love saying that. No is a full sentence.
She just
That's it.
But
walk away.
For me, because I am a people pleaser, I have this empathic like thing where I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I tend to over explain myself when I'm saying no.
You're a Libra.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo. I'm just like, I'm right. Stop what you're doing. And you're like, oh, like I'm so sorry. And I'm just like, I'm not sorry. Go away right now.
So our communication style together is phenomenal.
We balance each other out, that's
for sure. Like my sister says that Julia's my no. Because I will be like, oh, should we do that? And Julia's like, absolutely not. We should never do that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So communication.
Boundaries. I say boundaries all the time.
Yeah, boundaries, Mom. So communication is huge. So another kind of thing that I learned a long time ago is red, yellow, and green. So where are you at in your feelings and emotions at the moment? You know, are you in a headspace where you're like, and I will go back to it happens almost every day. Okay, when I'm depleted in the food arena in my life, I have a really hard time making decisions, and I have a really hard time communicating how I feel. I just kind of shut down. That's also for me, and Julia may not be the same way, but when I have a wedding weekend and I've been around people the entire weekend and I give and give and give. I call myself a functioning introvert because people think that I'm super extroverted. They think that I'm like really outgoing and all the things. I'm actually not whatsoever. I like being around people, but I also like being with myself, and being around a lot of people drains my energy. And so after I'm doing weddings in a weekend, I have a really hard time once I'm home making decisions or communicating the way that I should communicate, because I'm just like, I just want to sit here and stare off into space. And so learning yourself and how you communicate is really important. So I learned years ago about the like red light, green light, yellow light. So where are you at? And so when I'm feeling super open and just energetic and happy, I can talk about anything. It's like we can sit down and talk about things that are bothering us, things that I need to work on. Like if Julia sat down with me and was like, these things are bothering me that you do, I am receptive to what she's saying. That's green space. Like that, I'm good with that. Yellow is like, I could go either way. Like you may flip me. I could be like, I'm in such a good mood, and then you start talking about your feelings and things and I'm like, nope, I'm mad at you. Like it gets super defensive. And then red light is, I'm not ready to hear anything that you're saying. Like I'm gonna shut you down. Nope, I'm just gonna immediately, your presence coming up to me with words and your thoughts, I hate you for it. And so you gotta know. So when people are like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? I always try to think of where I'm at. Like, am I gonna be receptive to this? Like, and a lot of times you don't remember, and then, until you're in the conversation, you're like, well, shit, I'm a red right now. I'm about to punch this person in the face. So you kind of have to learn your communicative style, and that's just something that you can internally say where I'm at. Am I a green? Am I a yellow or a red? So that's something that is useful for sure.
Yeah, I think my whole generation is just horrible at communication. We grew up being scared of calling people. Like, we're all in our 20s, like, Mom, can you call the doctor? Which, granted, I call the doctor. I have my own house. I can call the people.
But not when you're at home.
When I was at home, no. I don't like talking to people over the phone, which is, like, a huge thing I've had to, like, work over, obviously, being a co-founder of a company. But communication is just something that, for some reason, my generation just, like, really struggles with.
Well, it's because you guys
I think
are on your
we're the generation
phone.
of, like, being able to text and being able to not have to actively talk to someone. We could do it in a different way. It's like, I'd rather send you a letter than talk to you face to face.
Yeah. I mean,
honestly, face to face, I'm fine. It's just on the phone, like, communication is just like an
I think a lot of people have anxiety about phone calls, though. I mean, I do sometimes. I see the phone ringing, and I'm like,
I'll stare at it for a couple seconds, and I'm like,
and don't text me, and then all of a sudden randomly call me, because I'll be like,
especially FaceTime.
I'll throw it.
FaceTime I'll do to you, or I'll answer your FaceTime, but anyone else, I'm like, no.
So just
Why would you
figuring
think
out
that you're allowed to do that?
Yeah. Figuring out how you communicate and what your style of communication is really important. And I think the overall like kind of takeaway is just learning who you are. A lot of people were like, well, this is just who I am. I'm never going to change. This is who I am. But figuring out the why of where that's coming from and why you are communicating or why you're doing a certain thing is super important. I mean, I joke and say at one point I had a shaman, a priest, a pastor, like therapist. Like, I was truly deep diving on who I was and why I was the way I was, because I was triggered by certain things and I was reacting a certain way, and I just got really tired of being a victim in my own life. And so I wanted to figure out what it was, why. And so digging into that, it helped me have the tools to say, okay, what is it about this situation that's making me react this certain way? And so I think that that's just evolving as a human being and being like really mature. And I think that, Julia can talk about how we were raising her, but I think that we are just very big on like being the best that you can be, knowing who you are, evolving, communicating in a way that is respectful and, honest and real, and still getting your words across, but also, taking responsibility for your life and not being a victim for silly stuff. Yeah,
because when I was younger, I remember Dad, I would just be like, well, it fell, and he would be like, it didn't just fall, like, what made it fall? Like, that was a big thing when I was younger, of him making me communicate in a way that was like owning it. which now is my pet peeves as an adult, is when people don't take credit or like ownership for their actions. I'm like, it didn't just happen. I sound like dad nowadays. I'm like, it didn't just walk in and do this to you. I'm like, what happened? Like, what did you do? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think not being a victim in your life and saying, what did I do to contribute to this situation? And it could be, not everything is like your fault. There's things that happen to you that are completely out of your control, that you have no, like, there's no fault of yours. There's no, like, you truly are a victim in those situations. But when it comes to things that you're, in a situation where it is, like Julia was saying, where simple things happen around the house, but when you start taking ownership of those small things, then you can take ownership of the larger things as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready to talk about venues?
Yeah.
Finding a venue.
So we're going to dive into weddings. Wedding stuff.
Wedding side.
So, all right. So I'm going to let you start on the venue. So this is about finding a venue, what to look for in venues, pitfalls, mistakes. We've toured a lot of venues.
Yeah. The big thing is there's so many venues. You need to first figure out what's your style. Are you modern? Are you rustic? Do you like the barn look, or do you like black and white? Do you want a white, very simple canvas? You need I always say Pinterest board. Start a Pinterest board. Start one, put all the pictures that you love that come across your timeline on this board, and then go back when you're actually ready to look at a venue and see what you're seeing a lot of. Mm-hmm. Like, you're constantly saving things that is your vibe without maybe even realizing what your vibe is. People have major FOMO. So, like, you just need to choose one and stick with it to the end.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many venues. You just need to be able to not look at all the options.
Yeah.
Like, just look at what makes sense for you. Ask them what their price range is. Ask them about what is included. Ask them about what vendors, like what their vendor rules are. Do you have to use their vendors? Do you have to use someone from their list, or do you have like options? You bring in anyone who you want. It's just like a whole beast on its own. It really is.
It is. So let's dissect that beast. So when you are newly engaged and you're looking to kind of start your journey on the wedding planning arena, in the wedding planning arena, you're like, okay, I'm going to find a venue. And like Julia said, you need to know what type of venue that you're wanting. Are you wanting rustic? Do you want a barn? Do you want to steer clear of barns? And the reason why you need to get clear on this is because you don't want to do a ton of tours. People are like, I want to see all the venues and then I'll make my decision on what I want. That's just going to cause decision paralysis. You're going to be like, I don't know. Like, I love all of them. Like, what am I going to do? And so you need to kind of dissect what you want in a venue. What do you want it to look like aesthetically? And then only look at venues that meet that criteria. Because then you're kind of narrowing it down. It's kind of like narrowing down your niche of like what you want to do. You're narrowing down your niche of like where you want to get married. So do you want it to have like an outdoor area?
Yeah.
Do you want it to be like a garden vibe?
Do you want to be all inside?
Yeah.
Do you want ballroom? Like,
yeah.
There's so many options. You need to narrow it down by a lot before you even start looking.
Yeah, because it's, a lot of couples just jump into the wedding planning process without doing kind of the thought process prior to the booking of appointments and tours and those type of things. So sitting down and knowing exactly what your budget is. What's your budget? Where am I, how much can I spend on this wedding? Is anybody helping me? Are there family members that are contributing? Budget is key to knowing what kind of venue that you're going to book, because you need to know how much money you can spend on a venue, because there are a wide range of costs when it comes to venues. There are venues that are $3,500. There are venues that are $13,000 or even more. And so you want to know like where you're at financially, and then what is your key non-negotiables when it comes to the aesthetics of your venue. Yeah. So I think that's the first kind of item to tackle when it comes to venue hunting. The second is, what do they require of you? Mm-hmm. So
do they require you to have a planner? That's like the huge first thing. And a lot of people want to wait until last minute, but like overall benefit you to go ahead and knock out that planner. Like go ahead and get that day of if you need it, because chances are they could help you a lot throughout the process, even if it's just day of.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you start with caterer. Do they have any recommendations for caterers? Do you have to use your caterer? Same thing with bar. Usually you would never run across really a photographer or anything like that being required. It's usually just bar and catering. But everything falls into place. Even some venues, they have linens for you. They have decor. They have a decor closet. You need to know how many tables and chairs that venue has. Some venues only have enough for 100 people, and that's just round tables. What if you have 200 people and you want rectangle? There's just so many different things. That's what helps you with having a Pinterest board and a place to really put together all your ideas in one place and be able to look through and see, okay, I have multiple images that have rectangle tables. Obviously, that's something that I really like, and kind of narrowing out other ideas.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that you should be open to any and every idea, because honestly, so many brides and grooms come to us in that paralysis state. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, they're just kind of frozen. It's because they have not done the work prior to even booking a venue or looking at a venue to figure out exactly what they want. Now, granted, I have brides that come to me with a book that's this thick, and they open it up and they're like, here's my wedding. I want this look, I want this to be this way, and that's amazing, but that's rare. And so you really need to figure out, okay, so I know my budget's $20,000. I'm just throwing numbers out there. The average wedding actually these days is $30,000. So we'll say $30,000.
Yeah.
So $30,000 for a wedding. You're like, okay, here's my budget. This is what I can spend. And then now you're looking, okay, so let me find a venue. Okay, I love this venue. This venue is amazing. It's $7,500. Awesome. But that venue also requires you to use their catering company and their bartending company. Okay, that's cool. That's okay. My head counts 125 people. I want plated. Great. So now you're looking at full bar, plated catering. So now you've spent $17,000 of that $30,000 budget. Okay, so now I need to look at that's so I say all that to say that when you're looking at a venue and you have a $30,000 budget and you're really wanting to not spend half that budget on food and alcohol, then you need to find a venue that doesn't require you to use their catering company and their alcohol package. I
would say if they require you to use catering and alcohol, you're already around $20,000 out the window.
Easy. I mean, especially if you're anywhere between 120 and 150, 100%. The higher you go in head count, the more it's going to cost you for food and alcohol, of course. And so those are things to consider. And like Julia said, how many tables do they have? If you have 120 people, you're going to have to rent more tables and chairs. That's another expense that you're going to have to.
There's also the things to look at when you are touring. You most likely want a place that has space for the girls to get ready day of, and guys. That's a big thing that we see is the guys don't have a space to get ready. It's like, oh, well, they have a bathroom. Okay, well, that's not enough. Like, then you have to have the guys get ready at your house or a hotel. You need to see when the venue allows you to check in, because hair and makeup needs to start 7, 8 a.m. And if a check-in is at noon, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And then moving into, is there a kitchen? The caterers need a kitchen. If they don't have a kitchen, that means they are using water hose water. That's right. Water hose water for your drinks. Yummy. So yummy. Just know if your venue does not have a kitchen, everything's tainted by, I'm just joking, not everything, but your water goblets are probably filled up with water hose water, and your caterer is probably irritated because now they have to, on top of having a late night, they have to go back to their restaurant or their shop and rinse everything off there instead of a kitchen.
Yeah.
And a lot of caterers actually require a kitchen at this point, or require like a good space that's like covered for them to be.
Yeah, it's surprising it's surprising the different things that we see.
Yeah.
And so you just like know your venue. Like when you start touring venues, don't just tour it looking
like,
at
wow,
the aesthetics.
That's so pretty, like
Yeah.
so aesthetically pleasing. But what if it's raining and it's all outside?
Yeah.
And you just have porta potties outside.
Yeah.
What do you
So
do?
you need to look at it. I tell our couples to put your planner goggles on. Like go through a venue with like you're planning the wedding for someone else.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at the venue all attached to it in your heart. You're looking at it from a different side. And so where do the vendors go? Like where do people, like how is everybody going to set everything up? Do you have a kitchen? Does the caterer have a kitchen? Because every caterer that you talk to is going to say, do I have a kitchen? Like where am I going to be? Where can I set things up? Where can I prep? Where is the DJ going to set up?
Is there a bar?
Yeah.
Does the venue already have a bar, a place for the bar to set up? If not, you're going to have to rent a bar, so that's an extra cost for you to keep in mind.
Exactly. And so you're like, okay, the DJ can set up here. Another question to ask about the DJ, how is the electric work in the venue? Is there a space that's really good for them and they can like set everything up, especially if there's multiple things that they're kind of connecting to. If you're getting a band, especially if you're getting band, how is it electric wise in the venue? Have they had a band there before? Because we've had a band at a venue before and it shut everything down because the breaker blew. And so I know this seems like a lot and it's like, oh gosh, I didn't even know I had to think about these things, but this is also why you hire a planner.
Yeah.
So you ask these questions and you figure out like the nitty gritty of how things are going, because ultimately this is going to make your wedding day go smoother. If you're dancing and having a great time and the electricity shuts off, it's kind of a buzzkill. And so you want to make sure that those type of things are set up. So like Julia mentioned about the groom suite and the bridal suite. So when you're looking at the bridal suite, of course, how's the lighting? Because you're going to be getting pictures in there. How big is that bridal suite? Is all your wedding party going to fit in there? You got to account for all your girls, your moms, your hair and makeup team. How cramped is it going to be? Like, is there enough space in there for everyone? Also, outlets. How many outlets do they have? Because we know that every outlet gets filled with charging, hair dryers, curlers, steamers. So how many outlets do you have in the bridal suite? And then we go to the poor groom suite. Oh, bless them. Mm-hmm. They get shafted so many times. It's just not thought of. But we love, love, love a venue that thinks about the groom suite and where they're going to be and where they're going to get ready. Because if there's not a groom suite and not a place for them to get ready, then they're going to have to rent a hotel room. They're going to have to get an Airbnb. They're going to have to get transportation. Like there's a lot of things that come into play that you're going to have to think about and spend money on. Mm-hmm. And so all of these things you need to think of before you book a venue. We catch it usually after the venue's already booked, and then we're like, oh, there's all these added expenses that you didn't think of that you needed because you didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so you got to consider these things. And when you're going through the venue, those are some things that you need to look at. Another thing that you need to look at is, are they planning to do any kind of construction between now and the time that your wedding's on? Because what are things going to do? Are they going to change?
Yeah, we've seen a venue where they have a ceremony option that one option's a fireplace. If they flip it in the same exact ceremony area, they have a field behind them. And then some of the couples didn't realize construction was happening and the owner was actually building her house back there. And so now the house is back there on the fields, which is so far away, but some couples still they're not getting that rolling hills that's just going into a tree line anymore. They're getting a house all the way back there. So then that changes. Okay, you have two ceremony options here. Well, actually now you just have one because most people don't want that.
Yeah.
So small stuff that's not really small, but it's stuff like that. It happens. You need to know, what are the venue's plans? Are they changing anything? Are they changing anything that's going to affect the ceremony area, reception, or cocktail hour?
Yeah. And then also, another thing to think of is when you're touring the venue, if it's not wedding season, what does the venue look like outside of wedding season? I know it doesn't seem like this is an important thing, but it really is. How they keep up the venue year round is how they're going to keep the venue up for your wedding. Don't think, okay, well, they surely will clean this place up for my wedding. Like, know that typically how they take care of the venue year round is how they take care of the venue year round.
Especially when they're doing tours with a couple.
Yeah.
If they're trying to impress you and they're showing you some bad sides, and that's already kind of a red flag.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot to consider. So kind of a recap of like what you do when you're looking for a venue. One, know your budget, know how much money you can spend, know your niche, what you want to look for in a venue, whether it's outdoor, indoor, rustic, non-rustic, hotel, ballroom. Really narrow that down.
Know what's included and know what their rules are.
Yeah.
That can affect catering and bar. So know what their rules are. If you have a dream of having a venue with a sparkler send off and they don't allow fire, there it goes right there. So that's one.
Or you're like, I really want my tables to be, I want my wedding reception to be covered in candles. And they're like, yeah, we don't allow that. That's a big deal. Because they're not going to say yes just because you beg.
Yeah.
And so really just kind of knowing where you're looking for, what you're looking for, and what to look for when you are at that venue. Have a checklist in place. Ask the questions just like you would if you were going to buy a home. You'd be looking for certain things. It's the same thing. This is the most important day of your life. And so you want to make sure that the venue that you choose, you're not going to have regrets after you pay that deposit.
Yeah, definitely.
So we want to wrap this episode up with our memorable moments.
With venues.
Yeah, so
Venue style.
Venue
I'll
style.
go first because mine's more like comical. Memorable. So I worked with a venue a lot that did fireworks, and one time they did fireworks while everyone was out by the dance floor. As soon as fireworks were done, everyone moved out for sparklers in front of the building, and it was just me like cleaning up in the back. No one else was in the backyard. It was just me. And then I see a fire, and I'm like, but it was like a small little glow, and I like walked over there, and then before my eyes, it was just becoming this massive fire because the venue didn't dump water over the fireworks and the grass before walking away and being like, all right, I'm done for the night. Like, here we go. And I was like, oh my God, there's a fire. And it was getting big, like rapidly. No one was around me. Everyone's in the front of the building just like, oh, like sparklers, yay. And I'm running around the venue, like texting, calling the venue, like, there's a fire. You're MIA. And I was just like running around, just frantic. Like, the bartenders were like, are you okay? Because I was like running by them like 3 times. And I was like, no, fire. And I was just like frantically like running around. Very memorable. A venue on fire. I mean,
yeah.
Granted, she got to it before it got too bad, but I was just like, where were you? Like, I was so scared. Like, I thought everything was just gonna catch on fire. Like a field of like hay and like trees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I had this whole scenario in my head. Like, everything's burning down. Wedding ruined at the very last moment. Like,
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's memorable.
yeah. I used to also set off these fireworks, by the way. In a dress, I would get barefoot so I could run away from the fireballs shooting around me. I would set the fireworks off and I would run away, and like all these fireballs were falling around me because they were like the big fireworks. Like, it's like $1,000 of fireworks, and I was out there setting them off, and it was just like falling all around me. So, but I dumped water on them when I was done because that's scary.
Yeah, that is scary. Memorable moment for me. Actually, I had a very pleasant memorable moment.
And on a happy note.
Yeah. So recently I did a wedding, and I'll plug this wedding venue. It's called the Ivory Barn. And it was, the reason it was so memorable to me, one, because I saw this venue grow up. I saw it when it was construction, all the way through to what it is now. And what was memorable to me was how much that the venue owners paid attention to the details. Mm-hmm. There was nothing that was unthought of. Like, they sat down with vendors and said, what do you need here at the venue? What's going to make it easy for you? There was actually a spot for us to like sit down and eat.
Yeah, they have like a shower and everything, don't they?
Yeah.
You've done weddings there, I haven't.
Yeah. So it's like they thought of every single detail on how to make everything go smoothly for everybody involved in the wedding. and they were there and they were present and they were helping with, different elements of the wedding. And it just felt really good. And that was very memorable to me because you don't get that a lot. We don't, not that there's anything wrong with, venue owners not being present at the venue. That's not what I'm saying. But it was different to me because they were so involved, and I saw how much detail that they put into what they were doing and how they grew the venue. And I guess what was the most memorable to me is that they listened to the vendors and what they needed. They listened to the bartenders and what they needed behind the bar. They listened to the caterers and what kind of things they needed in the kitchen. They listened to the planners and what we need when we're trying to set up the wedding and where we need to eat or where we can put our stuff. They really care about everybody that comes into that venue. And so that was a very memorable wedding for me because our team has done weddings there before, but this was the first wedding that I did there. And I was like, wow, they really...
Yeah, it's nice to come around a venue that really cares about their vendors.
Yeah.
And they really care about the inputs of vendors, and they welcome them to come in during their building process.
Yeah, for sure. So that is my memorable moment. Yeah. So we want to invite you guys, if you have any questions that you want to ask about what we talk about in the episodes, or if you have a story that you want us to share.
And any crazy wedding stories or just any questions that you have about the wedding world, you should shoot us a message at amy@JuJuLeeEvents.com, and we will try to get to all your messages, and we will like to share some of your stories at the end of our podcast as well. And at the end, we'll also answer some questions that come through.
Yeah, just make sure that you let me know if you want me to say your name.
If you want to be anonymous, or if you want to just have it as more of us just answering you and not putting it on the podcast, just let us know.
Yeah, we would love to hear your stories, and we would love to answer your questions. So as always, if you want to go down the JuJu Lee rabbit hole, you can find all of our different avenues at JuJu Lee Events /follow. And we will, you can see where we're at on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you're listening to this podcast, you can actually see it in video form and what we're doing and what we're drinking. Mm-hmm. And, it's a lot of fun just kind of hanging out and talking about all things.
Cheers to that.
Yep.
Cheers to women.
Worth.
And a wedding. Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Thank you very much.